So as always, if you can hear me, if you can see me, could you please type your location in the Q&A window so that we know that you can hear me? And I'm curious to know where we have people from. So if you go to Q&A or chat window, and so we have Ricardo from Mexico, very nice. Dia from Kenya, very nice. So Jamaica, Janai from Jamaica, so we have a very nice geography here. Patricia from Moldova, very nice. And I see we have quite a few people here from other countries. So Nikolai from Bulgaria. So we have Europe, Latin America, Africa, North America, very nice, very nice. Sandos from Egypt, Debbie from Myanmar. Okay, well, we have a very geographically diverse crowd this time. While we're waiting for everyone to gather up, I'll just share with you, we just had a very interesting meeting. The group of students who will be attending the X Culture Symposium in San Antonio in 3 weeks. So we had a few professors and we had a bunch of students. Those who don't know, I'll tell about that, even though it's not part of your program yet, but many of you at some point probably will be going to the X Culture Symposium. So let me tell you a little bit more as to what that is. So the way the whole thing started was many of X Culture students, university students, as you know, initially, expressed interest in attending the Academy of International Business conference with their professors. So us professors, we are usually members of two professional organizations, the Academy of International Business and the Academy of Management. And so every year, those conferences are organized usually in different countries, sometimes in the United States, sometimes somewhere else. And we go to those conferences to present our research, to meet with our co-authors, colleagues, to see presentations of other academics. So it's a kind of more of an academic event, but in many cases, they're also attended by representatives of business. And so many of our students, especially those at the master's level, graduate students, they would often write papers with us, do research and write papers. And so they would go to the conference to do the presentations. And so at some point we noticed that we already bring quite a few X Culture students with us to those conferences just because, they work with us on the research. And so it was in 2013, the first time, one of our professors, Daniel Roddick, he said, hey, maybe we should organize the X Culture event, symposium, so, just make it part of the, conference. And so for the first time when we did it, I think it was in Istanbul, Turkey, and then that same year in Miami, in Florida. So that we had, I don't remember how many, it was about 30 students or so the first time. And so we started organizing those symposia as part of the Academy of International Business Conference. So the Academy of International Business, it's a very large organization with thousands of members all around the world. And they're so big that they have what they call different chapters. And so many of us here at X Culture are in the United States, specifically Southeast United States. And so we belong to the Southeast USA chapter of the Academy of International Business. And so that's where we started organizing the X Culture Symposia for the first time. So it went kind of, there would be the conference and there would be the X Culture Symposium as part of that program. And then at some point, so many X Culture students wanted to attend those symposia that the conference organizers said, well, if you bring everybody who wants to attend, everybody you want to bring, we will have more students from X Culture than professors attending the conference. So we cannot do that. And so we continue doing the symposia with the Academy of International Business, but there would be usually a limit on how many students we can bring to that meeting. But because we have so many other X Culture students who also want to attend the conferences and the symposia, some 3 years ago, we started organizing an additional second bigger X Culture Symposium only for X Culture students. And so at this time, we have 2 of those events every year. So there would be one in the summer. And so usually we would have 150 students attending the summer event. And so there would be another, 20, 30 professors and then some coaches and ambassadors who organize the event. And so the last one we held was in Canada. It was in July, so it's 2 months ago or so. And yes, we had about 200 people total there. Before that, the summer event was held in Italy, in Macerata, University of Macerata. Again, we had about 200 people total. And then before that, it was in Miami, hosted by the Johnson and Wales University. And then again, there were a bunch of companies that we visited and things like that. And so that one goes basically for the whole week. We call it the X Culture Global Business Week Symposium. And so it's only X Culture. And so the whole program is all about X Culture. So we attend all kinds of presentations and seminars and workshops, meet with the local professionals and businessmen and all kinds of stuff like that. So very business focused and only X Culture. But we continue doing the webinar in the fall together with the Academy of International Business. And so the one that will be next is in San Antonio, Texas. And so it will be next month, so in about 4 weeks from now. And so we do it together with the Academy of International Business. And so the one we do in the fall is a little bit less about business and a little bit more about sort of research and academic side of it. So it is part of the conference, which means there are many professors from all around the world who attend the conference for the research sort of side of it. And then in addition, we have about 40 X Culture students who come both for X Culture events, but also to meet other professors. One of the things that is this event is very suitable for is if you would like to continue with your education, if you would like to maybe apply to a graduate program, or maybe even if you're younger and still looking for colleges, or if you're thinking about maybe doing a PhD. So that's where we have a lot of professors. There will be literally hundreds of professors. And so it's a good opportunity to meet them, to find out more about their universities and the programs at their schools. Maybe even think about, make some arrangements if any of those professors can be your academic supervisors, maybe your dissertation committee members, and just find out more about stipends, for example, their schools offer, and so on and so on. And even though these conferences are organized by what we call kind of regional chapters, they're always attended by people from all around the world. Like, for example, the one organized by the Academy of International Business Southeast USA chapter, we would have about 30 to 40 countries represented there. So there will be people from literally all around the world, more from the United States, but there will be literally from every part of the world, from different universities and sometimes different companies. And so even though it's part of a larger conference and students still have access to all conference events, they still have access to all conference presentations, networking events, panel sessions, meetings with the companies and publishers and whatever else the conference organizes. We still have some additional events specifically organized for the X Culture students. For example, there would be an additional host company that we work with, and only X Culture students visit that company. So this time it's a company called Rackspace, and you probably don't know the name, but there is a good chance you actually use the services of that company. The company specializes in cloud computing. And so it's one of those companies that we sort of don't see at the front, but when you're using the internet, when you're running some programs in the cloud, there is a very good chance the actual, provider, the company that makes sure your program runs, is Rackspace. It's one of the largest in the world, and it specializes in cloud computing. And so then there is another company that is Rackspace's client that the students will be trying to help with some business challenges they have. I'm not allowed to talk much about the challenge itself, but the way it goes is the host company presents a challenge. Presents a challenge, and then the X Culture students spend some time working in teams, virtual teams, online, preparing for the, preparing the solution to the challenge. Then once we are at the conference, we have a meeting with the company, visit the company facilities, meet with the company management, ask questions, get a little bit more information about the company. And then for the next few days, the students attend both the conference, but in the breaks, they continue developing the solution to their challenge and the presentation for the company. And then on the last day, they present their solution, they present their ideas to the company, and then we select the winners. And then when the time comes for the big closing ceremony, that's where we announce the winning team, and there are prizes and all kinds of other things. And so, yeah, we just had a webinar with the students who will be attending the next symposium, which will be in Texas. And so it was very nice to meet them. I knew some of them from previous events. We have a few students who have attended symposia in the past, and so they attending them again today. At this time, we have some students who attended the symposia first as students, And now we have a small group who will be the coaches, so who will kind of share their experience and help the new generation of X Culture students. So I knew those, but there were many that I saw for the first time, so it was very nice to meet them. And what's interesting about this event, so we expect 40 students. And so what's interesting that normally, at least the one we do in the United States, a good half of all participants would be American students, and then there would be another 20, 30 countries represented. And this time it's so diverse that we have like 4 from the United States, I think like 3 or 4 from Canada, but everybody else is from somewhere else. And so we have very exotic countries, like we have, for example, Afghanistan for the first time. So hopefully the kid will be able to come. We have obviously South Africa and Australia and just all of, you know, most countries from Europe and Latin America. But then there are some countries that are, you know, not even all people can find on the map. And so it will be a smaller but a very diverse group. So very, very interesting. So what I'm trying to say here is that I truly hope that some of you will be able to attend some of those meetings in the future. And so Texas is a little too late for you. So it was for the students who participated in the past. But then the next event will be in Singapore, hosted by the Singapore Management University. And then there will be another one in the fall of 2020 here in the United States. We don't know where yet, so we are waiting for the Academy of International Business to decide on the location, and then we will participate and collaborate with them. And again, at this time, we're still accepting applications for the hosts, from the host or potential hosts for the X Culture 2021, and then moving on. It's likely that 2021 will be again in Miami. We have a company there that is a long-term partner, and so they want us to meet or be partner with them again. So we'll see how things go, but it's a very good chance that we will be back in the United States in 2021, but then we'll see where next. So if your university wants to host one of these events, let us know, and we'll see what they have to offer. We'll tell them what's needed, because organizing an event like this is quite a lot of work. And so if it's an interesting location and an interesting university, we are always open to collaboration. All right, so let's talk a little bit about X Culture now. As always, a quick update, and then if you have any questions, we will answer them. So as always, we have 4 different groups, and so I'll just quickly go through each of them. So one, the university students who are in the early track. So we have a total of 1,350, I believe, on teams at this time. And so for them, it's now week 4. And so this week, they are working on section 1 of their report. So all you guys have to do this week is submit a draft of your section 1 report. It doesn't have to be a finished report, so you just submit what you have. What we do with that information, one, we want to make sure that you're making some progress. So again, it doesn't have to be finished, it doesn't have to be fully polished. We just want to see that you're doing something, that you're not waiting until the last day to start writing your report. Second, we will send those reports to coaches who have been trained to evaluate the quality of your work and to provide some feedback. It may take about a week or so before we will be able to provide the feedback. I mean, it's hundreds of submissions, hundreds of teams in the early track. It takes time to read them and to see what you have there. But we will try to give you some feedback within a week or so. And again, we used to give the feedback to every team individually. We don't do that anymore because it's, again, not only takes a lot of time to write feedback to each team individually. The challenge there also is that we have a limited number of people who do it. And if you ask them to write feedback to every team, they sort of don't go very deep. They just say a few words just because they don't have time. It takes time. And so it's not very useful feedback. It's team specific, but it's very limited. And so what we do now is they read all of the reports and then they provide feedback to the whole cohort at the same time. And so the feedback will be more like this. They will say, okay, we read 100 submissions, 200 submissions, and these are the common problems we see. These are the common impressions we have. These are some of the interesting solutions we saw. So it will be a fairly detailed feedback, but not for each team individually, but in general. So things that are usually very good, and here are the examples. Things that we see that often, like things that are bad and that we see a lot, in submissions, here is a problem. Here is an example of what it looks like. So if your team made that mistake, make sure to correct it. And if you're still working on your challenge, development, make sure not to make this mistake. So that kind of stuff. So it probably will be about a week or so before we can share that feedback, but hopefully you'll get some. Now, late track students, university students, so we expect about 4,000 students in that track, in addition to the 1,400 that we have in the early track. For them, they still have about 3 weeks, I believe, to finish the readiness test. And so all you guys have to do, if you're here, find that email welcome letter from X Culture. There is a link there, and just click on the link and do the readiness test. We already have about half of the students done with the test. Others are still working. And for some, the semester hasn't even started yet, so they will be joining us in a few, in the coming days. But for you guys, all you have to do is just do the readiness test. So there is really not much else you can do. Then we have the coaches. So the coaches, that's the last week of the selection/training for them. So they have 4 weeks of theoretical training. And so they have to complete, if I remember correctly, 16 training modules. And so this week, literally due tomorrow, they're submitting the last theory test. And so we received quite a few applications, selected, I believe it was 120 people who were allowed to go through this theoretical training/selection phase. And so from that group, we plan to select 40. So there are many who do very well, but we don't want to keep the program too large. So we are planning to select 40 people who will advance to the practical training stage. And so basically starting on Monday, they will be then full-fledged coaches. And so they will start working with the students, and they will start basically, dealing with all kinds of challenges that students need help with, maybe conflicts in teams, maybe providing feedback on an individual basis, team counseling, all kinds of things. So again, guys, we will have, if any of you are here, obviously we will have a separate webinar for coaches at 11 o'clock in about 45 minutes. So we will give you more information there. And finally, and to me, most importantly, the kids and professionals, so the academy students. So again, we have a large group of students who are going through training now, and it's both training and selection. So again, that's the last day essentially, right? So you have your test 4 due tomorrow. And we are pretty much ready to start sending out the official welcome letters to those who finished and passed the theory training. So initially we started off with, I think it was like about 2,000 applications that we received. From those, we invited a little over 1,000 people to go through the theory training. As always, some never even showed up. Show up, but unfortunately we're not smart enough to complete all 4 tests. So we had some who definitely tried. I mean, they tried every single test, and in fact sometimes multiple times, but didn't quite show the necessary skills and quality of work there. So unfortunately, we take these things very seriously, and only if you do well on all 4 tests, we allow you to advance to the practical phase. And then we have quite a few who did do well. So who every single test passed the test and showed good results. And once we see your test 4 results, which will be literally tomorrow, we will start sending you the welcome letters. And so what will happen then is the following. So we'll have sort of like a 2-week break, a little bit less than 2 weeks from the time we have your final test and we are ready to either accept or reject you until the time we start forming teams. And so during those 2 weeks, your job will be, if you're accepted, your job will be to register, so to pay the registration fee, unless you have a stipend. But yeah, basically get ready for the project. And on October the 7th, that's when we will form the teams. We will see, maybe we will form some teams a little earlier, so you have a little bit more time to work with your team, but we'll see if we want to do it. So everybody normally is placed on teams at the same time. And so that will happen on Monday, October the 7th. So basically 2 weeks from now, a little bit more, right? And once that happens, you have the team, you have the client, and your job is, to start working on the challenge. So there will be 10 companies to choose from. And so your team will select one of those companies, the one you like most. And then for the next 2 months, you will work on that challenge. So you will try to develop your best solution to that challenge. And yep, that's basically what it is. We have a few students who missed one test for one reason or another. And our initial inclination was to disqualify them right away. But then some of those students contacted us and said, oh, I had a problem, I was sick, I was traveling, or I had problems with the internet. And we have some countries here in the, so we have a total of 103 countries still in play. And so some of those countries, obviously, you know, like here in the United States, everybody has access to the internet at all time, from your phone, from your tablet, from your computer. But we have some countries where, you know, people literally have to schedule time at a library to go online, you know, to get access to the computer. And we respect that. And we understand that sometimes, you know, some things may not work out and you may not meet the deadline. So we are working with those people who missed a test, just making sure that, you know, there was a good reason for that. And so if you're one of those students, we will give you an opportunity to retake it. But in any case, we need to get them literally done by tomorrow. So in fact, if you're one of the students who missed one of the tests, you probably already received a retake link. If you contacted us about that, you probably already have received a retake link, and make sure that you take the test until tomorrow so that we have that. And yep, that's basically where we stand. So starting on Monday, you will start getting your official, you passed the theory test letters. And once you get that, you will have the instructions what to do next. Now I see we have a few people asking questions here. So let me just look at the questions, and then I see a few people raise their hands. Dana, so let me lower your hand because I've seen it's been up for a long time, so I'm not sure if it was accidental or if you had questions. But as always, if you have questions, raise your hand. I will add you here, or type your question in the questions and answers window, and I will add you. I will read the question and we'll try to answer it. So there is a question regarding the late test. So yes, that's a good question, and I just want to make sure that I explain sort of the logic here. So, and in fact, I don't know, maybe you can even share with me your thoughts about that. So, X Culture, as you know, is a team-based project, and as such, it is extremely important for us that only the students who are truly ready to participate in a project in a team are placed on teams. And when I say truly ready, it includes not only the necessary skills, not only the necessary English language proficiency, or just, you know, being smart in general, but equally importantly, it includes the necessary work ethics, diligence, commitment. Because if we place students on teams who are not diligent, committed, you know, have strong work ethics, you don't want to have students like that on your team, right? So there will be, let's say, 7 people in your team, and one person is not coming to meetings, is not participating in discussions, is not doing his or her part of the work. So you will not be happy about that. And so even though we would like to have as many as possible students in X Culture, we are very particular when it comes to selection, because even though I would be happy if, you know, John Smith participated in X Culture and, you know, had a good time, if John Smith is not serious, it means that there will be 6 other people on John's team who will not be happy with the project because John is not doing his job. And so as much as I would like John to have the experience, I don't want the 6 other people to be upset. And so I would much rather not allow John to participate and have 6 happy people than let John take part in the project, but then have 6 team members who complain about John all the time. And so when you do the tests, when you do the training, as I said many times, to us, your answers matter. We would like to see high scores. But what matters even more is your sort of respect for deadlines, your ability to work hard week after week after week after week. And so if you miss a test, usually it's a big red flag for us. I mean, if you are not able to answer 80% of the questions correctly and you answer a little bit fewer correctly, we can work with that. Especially if you come from a country maybe where English is not the first language, especially if you are younger, maybe, you know, one of the kids who is 10, 12 years old. We can sort of, live with the fact that you had a difficulty answering the necessary number of questions correctly. But when you miss the test, that's where we become really nervous. That's when we become like, if he didn't even try to do the test, what does it tell us? At the same time, we do recognize that many of you, especially the older ones, may have jobs. Many of you have school, busy schedule, university or school. Many of you, maybe again, those who are professionals, have family obligations, may have business trips. Or as I said, we do have students from countries where, internet penetration is not very high, where, people don't have internet at home at all times, and they literally have to work. Like I remember we had this student who not only had to book a library time to go online, but literally it was like 20 kilometers away from where he lived. Like every time he needs to send an email, it's like a whole trip to a different town so he can go online. And so he was trying very hard and, did a good job, but I can see how for him sometimes it's hard to, to meet every single deadline. So we respect that. Or for example, we have this kid from Afghanistan who actually will be going to San Antonio in a few weeks. For the first time I will meet him. So I literally remember sometimes he would be in a webinar, and then all of a sudden he just switches off, like he just disappears. And then he joins a few minutes later and he says, we had some sort of, like a bombing or shooting going on. And so the electricity went off. And so I lost my internet connection. So now I'm connecting from my phone. And so that's how I can, but still he showed every effort and tried everything possible to be always online, to always communicate with his team. And in fact, was one of our best students. So, but we understand that sometimes you may miss the deadline. And when that happens, make sure to send an email to academy@xculture.org and inform them that, there was a problem. And so obviously we will work with you. So we will give you a chance to retake that test. So it was a very long answers to a relatively simple question, but I just want to communicate why we take these things very seriously. So we have a few students here. So we have Dana and we have Hamad. You guys had questions? Please go ahead.
Good morning.
Hi, Dana.
So my question is, can a student join X Culture for more than one semesters in a year?
Yes, that's a very good question. Yes, he or she can. And we may even have something better for you than that. So we had students who have joined X Culture multiple times. I think the record was Heinrich Pfeiffer. He is from Austria, although I think he studies in Germany at this time. And so he participated in X Culture like 4 times. And then at some point he said, I want to participate again. And we thought, like, you really want to do it again? And that's when we thought, hey, maybe we should create this coaching program where people like Heinrich, who has participated multiple times in the program, maybe instead of being a student yet again, they can share their experience as coaches with the new generation. So if you want to participate multiple times, you can. But we may even offer you the opportunity to do the coaching program instead. And so receive additional training. And so the first time you would be the team member, so you would be the student. But the second time you will be the coach. So you will receive a lot of additional training. It's not guaranteed, even if you apply, it's not guaranteed that you will be selected. But you will receive a lot of useful training, like things like how to provide effective feedback, how to resolve conflicts, cross-cultural communication, much more information on international business so that you know a little bit more about how to solve those challenges. Things like that, how to, counsel teams and all kinds of things that you may need for your, coaching kind of job. And then if you pass all of that, if you do well in training, then you can now receive experience not as a student, but essentially as a coach, as a mentor, as a supervisor, essentially for those teams. It's a very, very useful experience. And if you pass, you can get that as well. We also have students who must do it multiple times. Like, for example, we often have a student who participates in the project as a kid or as a student at a university, but then the person moves on to the next university to do a graduate degree, or maybe does like a semester abroad, takes another international business course. And, surprise, surprise, X Culture is part of that course as well. So he needs to do that course or X Culture again, not because he or she wants it, but because it's part of the second course or a different course that the student takes. So yes, you can do that. You're welcome to do that. We may even offer you a different option like coaching. So let's do well this time. But if you want to stay in touch with us, there are ample opportunities to stay in touch with X Culture and continue to grow professionally and personally with us, with our students, our professors, and our program. Dana, where are you from again? Tell us.
I'm from Jamaica.
Jamaica, yes. I believe we met you in the past, so very nice to meet you. Okay.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Sure. Hamad, do you have a question? Please go ahead.
Yes, hello, sir. My name is Hamad, and I'm from Pakistan. So my question is regarding means if someone is means really busy or maybe misses the chance to appear in a test weekly based test. I just want to be. I means what are the procedures to means what will he have to do next? Is any some he will give a chance. He will maybe means provide some extra time by the admin or by you. Any something.
Good question. So if someone is busy, as I was explaining, it's not such an easy issue because on the one hand, we do understand that some people can be busy and we understand that, we have to be accommodating here. But at the same time, as I said, it's not an online course where you are all by yourself. You are part of the team. And so if somebody is too busy and cannot regularly communicate with the team, I would, as I said, much rather that person not participate than participate and keep them unhappy. But there are ways to deal with, schedule conflicts. First, your team. So your team obviously will expect that you communicate with them regularly. There will be some assignments that they want you to do, some maybe work that you need to write, and sometimes you may be busy. Maybe you have a week when you have exams or when you have something else going on.
Yes.
So there is no problem when you tell your team about that. You tell them, hey guys, I have several exams this week, or maybe I have to go on some trip or something else. I'm just letting you know that I will not be available for this week. As long as you communicate with the team, as long as they know what's going on, and as long as you still do your work, it should be fine. It shouldn't be a problem. There are 7 of you per team or 6 per team, so depending on how big the team is. And it doesn't mean that you have to do something every single week. Maybe you will be responsible for a section of the report, or maybe you do the final copy editing, or maybe your job is to do something else. Most likely, there will be times when you don't have to do anything this week. And so you can always plan your time in a way that, if you know that week will be busy, you just tell your team, hey guys, I will not be able to do much this week, but I'll catch up the week after. And so as long as you communicate with your team, I found that it shouldn't be a problem. If sometimes for a few days you're not available. The problems arise when people simply disappear, do not inform the team, and then everybody is, what's going on? Is Hamad still online? Is he still participating? Did he change his mind? That's when it's a problem. So
Yes.
as long as you communicate
Right.
with them, it shouldn't be a problem. Likewise with the tests, as I said, if you tell us that, oh, sorry, I missed a test because I was busy, or better yet, you tell us in advance, you say, I will not be able to meet the deadline this week because I will be on a business trip or something else. We will always work with you. As I said, those tests are not so much to test your knowledge, but to make sure that you are still participating, that everything is fine, that you keep it under control. So communication is the key. Communication, communication, communication. As long as you let your team know in advance, it's going to be okay. As long as you let us know in advance, it will be okay. A problem is when you just disappear and nobody knows if you're still in or out. That's when it's a problem. So as long as you plan and inform your team, it should be fine. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm. Very nice to meet you, Hamad. So Maya, do I pronounce the name correctly? So please go ahead. You had a question as well?
I want to ask about the test.
Okay.
Yes. That the test says that we have to do a research about the payment method in, like in our country, there's very rare to see people who are interested in ordering a T-shirt online
Right.
from an American company, and I don't know how to research that. I have never experienced that.
And by the way, your research may literally be an explanation that in my country, people don't buy things overseas. And so
Yes, we have everything we need here.
Right. That's a very good question. And it's a very common problem. So we have a bunch of companies this semester that are trying to expand into new markets. And in many cases, making payments overseas is a big challenge that they face. So for example, we have a company that makes socks. So I don't think we have any companies that make t-shirts, but one of the companies that will be joining in the late track is a company from Ukraine, and they specialize in making socks. And so they already sell some of their products here in the United States, and so they're trying to expand into more countries. And the problem is that there may be many customers in different countries who want to buy their product. It's a very good quality product. It's inexpensive, but how do you make the payment? Like, let's say a pair of socks, maybe, I don't know, let's say $1 or $2. How do you make that payment? Here in the United States, it's very easy. We have the credit cards, and you just, take the credit card, you enter the information in the online shop, website, and done. But in some other countries, people don't use credit card all the time, or maybe they don't use PayPal or whatever other payment systems are. Maybe they still use cash. And so the question is, how do you make the payment overseas? Like, do you literally put those, dollars or whatever, currency you have, do you really put it in the envelope and mail it, or how do you do it? And that's a good question. So there are definitely ways to do it. You can always make a bank transfer. You can always, so there are, ways to collect payments or make payments overseas. But one of the reasons the companies want to work with you, one of the reasons they would like your ideas, because they don't know. And you may find that out. So it can be something that you can talk to your friends and see, if they know anything. Maybe you will go to one of the local banks and ask, what are the options? If I wanted to buy a product overseas, how I can pay for it? Maybe you'll do some online search and, like you would say, how do you make a payment from Ukraine to the United States? So the whole idea here is the reason the companies are so eager to participate in X Culture, because even though you guys, it's not that you are very smart, which you are, but it's not really that you're smarter than the company, than the businessman. The value really comes from the fact that you are over there. And for you, finding answers to some of those questions is easier because you're right there. You may already have that knowledge. You may easily find it by talking to your friends, parents, teachers, banks, companies, businessmen. And so when there are enough of you trying to find those answers, you usually succeed. And so for a company, if they wanted to find out information about all those countries on their own, especially if it's like a small company from Ukraine that makes socks, they have, I believe they said they have like 20 people, 20 employees only. They make a lot of those socks, but it's a small company still. And so for them to do a research like that globally, I mean, like, they literally don't have the resources. They don't have the knowledge. They don't know how to go about it. Most of those people are not even, familiar with business much. I mean, they are, assembly line workers essentially. Whereas you guys, you have that knowledge, you have that training, you have that local expertise. And so once you send your reports in, and once they get a stack of reports, they're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about Pakistan. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about Ukraine. Oh, did you see this? Okay, I didn't even think about that. And when you put it together, that's when the value is. Like, many companies then send us a lot of like thank you letters, and they say, oh, you know what, you saved us like 2 years of time. I mean, if we had to do it, it would have taken us years and years. And here, and some ideas were so brilliant. I mean, I don't know how they came up with that, but we are doing that. And so that's the whole point. So yeah, don't be upset if you cannot find the answer right away, or it's not a problem if your answer is that no, there is no way people from my country can make a payment overseas. Just informing the company about that is useful, and so they will know, okay, yeah, maybe we shouldn't go into that country because there will be always a problem with the payments. So whatever you find out, it's useful information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. What country are you from? So I'm just curious.
Myanmar, from Asia.
Myanmar.
It's a neighboring country of China.
Yeah, I know where it is. So, but I bet most of the people who are here in the webinar would not be able to show it on the map, right? So, yeah. Myanmar, that's the so the country changed the name some time ago, right? So that's a new name, isn't that? Or
it's Burma.
Yeah, so it used to be Burma, and then they changed the name like 10 years ago or something. Yes. Yeah, most people don't even know where it is on the map. So I know that's like between China, like east of China, right?
Yes, and between China and India.
China and India, yeah, very nice. Yeah, I really wish we can go there sometime. So yeah, all right.
Okay, bye.
Okay, yep, nice. Yeah, thank you for your questions. And I see we have a bunch of questions here that came from students in writing. So we had a question about the test. Symposium, very good question. So somebody is asking who is paying for the symposium and other scholarships. The answer is yes and no. In Germany, anyone, if you speak German, they have this word, they call it nein. So, jein. So they have the word ja, which is yes, and nein, which is no. And the combination of those two words is jein, which is yes and no. So do we pay for your travel to the symposium? The answer is jein, yes and no. By default, we don't pay for the students to attend the symposium. As you already know, X Culture is a educational nonprofit organization, and the only resources we have is basically what you pay for participation. And it's not even nearly enough to run the organization, so the way we survive is many professors offer their time for free. So you obviously met me, but we have more professors who help with developing the tests, running the program, organizing the symposia, dealing with the challenges the students may have. So many professors essentially donate their time for free. And so we do have some resources, to manage the website, to pay, our accountant. There are some things that we need to cover, pay for paper, printers, and stuff like that. But so many, other things, in many cases, we have to rely on volunteer help. When the time comes to organize the symposium, the way we organize them, we literally just find the host institution, and then we just calculate how much would it cost us to provide, the food and transportation and housing and whatever else needs to be made arrangements for to organize this event, insurance, all kinds of things, the bags that you will receive with the program of the event and things like that. And so we literally just calculate how much it costs, and then we just divide it by the number of participants, and that becomes the participation fee. Usually it's about $800, $900 for the event, for the week, and it covers everything. So it covers food, it covers transportation, it covers all of the things, like it's about 20, 40 different things that we need to pay for to make that event happen. For the event in the fall, we do not provide housing, and the event is part of the Academy of International Business Conference. And so in the fall, the registration is only $175, but it only covers access to the conference, food, some materials that you receive as conference attendees, but you still have to pay for your own housing, transportation to the company, but you still have to pay for your own housing. And so you have to pay for that to attend the event. But all of the students do receive some sort of support, some from us and some with our help. So we still do offer a few travel stipends. So students who come from poor countries, from far away, we still try to offer at least some of the support directly from the X Culture budget. Usually it's not a full package. We offer only usually $500 a stipend, so which can cover only part of your expenses, but we do offer something to some students. In addition, what we do is you can give us names of potential sponsors, and we write very strong support letters on your behalf, asking for literally sponsor your trip to the symposium. And in our experience, pretty much all the students get some form of support. So many of them get, in fact, most of the students get something from the university that they study at. So most universities have budgets for that. And so with our support letter explaining where you're going, how important this event for you, what you will learn, what you will do, most universities look at that and say, yeah, I think that's a very important trip for the student. Let's sponsor them. Many go to local companies, maybe companies that your parents work for, or maybe a company you work for, or just some random companies in your city, and ask for sponsorship. And in many cases, they offer, again, sponsorship. Again, we send a very strong letter explaining why it's important for you, and they look at it and they say, yeah, we think that the student, should go there. We had students who went to the mayors of their city asking for support and got money from that, from the city. In fact, we once had, I remember, 7 students from Italy who were fully sponsored by the mayor, the mayoral office of their city. And in Canada, we had one of the teachers from Ukraine who also went to the mayor of his city, and the mayor said, yeah, we want our teachers to grow, we want our teachers to develop, so yes, here is the money for your trip. So in the end, even though we offer only very limited support from our own budget, just because we don't have the money to give you, with the support letters that we give you, with with all of the support that we provide, most students are able to secure either full funding or partial funding to attend the event. And yep, that's how it works. Let's see if we have any other questions. So again, if you have questions, you can raise your hand. And meanwhile, I will read the written questions. Someone who shows up as Galaxy J6 asks how many students there will be per team. We usually try to keep it at about 6 or 7. And yes, every student will be from a different country. You will be matched by age. So especially the younger ones, you will be in a team with people who are exactly your age. So if you're 10 years old, it will be a team of 10-year-olds. If you're 16 years old, it will be a team of 16-year-olds. When it gets a little older, like if it's professionals who are in their 20s and 30s, it can be plus or minus a few years. So there may be a team of people who all are between 21 and 25, or everybody between 25 and 30. So there will be not an exact match there, but we still try to match you more or less in terms of your age and experience. And obviously there will be no cases when, like there is a kid and an adult in the same team. So there may be like plus or minus a couple of years, but generally you're all the same age. And yep, that's how we form teams. Everybody will be from a different country. Sometimes it's possible that there may be two students from the same country if we have a very overrepresented country in that age group. So it's possible for some teams, but generally you will have 6 or 7 students from 5 or 6 different countries, let's call it this way. And then yes, all of them will be in different time zones. All of them will be, in different countries, different culture, different institutional environment. So you will have to find a way to work with those people to navigate this, different environment. That's the whole point. So yeah. Nada, you have a question. I see you joined, so go ahead with your questions, please.
Hey, I wanted to ask if X Culture could be an opportunity for us to get a sponsorship or a scholarship, I mean.
Scholarship for
in university.
Again, yes and no. Again, we will not, we don't have the resources to sponsor your studies at a university level. And in fact, that's not even something that is our goal. But we will definitely have, or we will provide you a lot of opportunities to first meet professors from different schools. Second, find out about different universities. So we have a total of about 600 professors or so who have participated in X Culture with their students over the years. And every semester we have about, this semester we have 187 as at this time, who are participating with their students in the project. And so starting next week, we will start having some of them as guest speakers. So you'll have an opportunity to ask, to meet them. But also if you have questions, we can forward your questions to those professors. You will meet many of them if you go to the X Culture Symposium. So if we have, for example, the summer symposium, there would be usually about 20 professors who go there, and those professors are there specifically for you. So the only reason they go there is so that they can work with the students, they can share their experience and knowledge with the students. If you go to the X Culture Symposium in the fall, like the one we will have in San Antonio in 3 weeks, there will be probably around 300, 400 professors there. So it's a lot, of professors, but they don't really come there for X Culture students. Most of them go there for the conference, and only some of them are there to help you, but you have access to all of them. You can attend their presentations, you can talk to them in the different sessions, networking events. And so while we will not provide sponsorship per se, we will definitely provide ample opportunities for you to meet professors, to talk to representatives of different schools. There will be some special events specifically designed to share with you how you can apply for scholarships, how you can apply for stipends. And we will devote at least a couple of webinars over the next several weeks as the project will be going on specifically to this topic. And then when you come to the symposium, we always have a separate session specifically on how to apply for scholarships, how to apply for stipends, how to maximize your chances of being accepted to school. In fact, in Canada, we had several of those sessions. We had one of the people here from UNCG, from my university, Mary Lisa, flew to Canada to offer one-on-one counseling to students for how to get scholarship, how to apply to universities, not only my own university, but in general. And then we also had the services of the University of Calgary, that was the host, that again were trying to counsel students and train students on how to apply, how to select the good schools, how to apply for scholarships. So while we will not be able to give you any money per se, we will provide you with many opportunities to learn how you can maximize your chances of getting a stipend, getting a scholarship, of being admitted to a good school. And so as long as you kind of do it right, there is a very good chance you will be able to get a scholarship either from the school itself, or maybe from organizations or funding agencies like Fulbright or Muskie, or one of those. And yeah, so we can help you in that way. And in many cases, our advice may be even more valuable than the money itself, because it may lead to more options to, to better scholarships and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I want to ask how many students are going to stay on the juniors project, because you said that some students are going to be eliminated. So how many students are going to stay after the exam?
That's a good question. I don't know yet, so we'll have a meeting about that. So we know that we always lose about half because they either didn't do the test at all, or they did it so poorly that it's clear to everyone that they should be eliminated. But then we have kind of a gray area. So we always have about 200 students that we are not sure about. So so there will be like 350, 400 students that are so good that everybody looks at them and says, yes, absolutely, they definitely should be selected. But then there will be, as I said, another maybe 200, maybe 300 who kind of tried and, did either all tests, but the grades were low, or maybe did like 3 tests, but then missed one for whatever reason. And that's where we are always not sure what to do with them. On the one hand, we want to give them the opportunity to participate. On the other hand, I know good students like you, like others, probably don't want students like that on their teams. And so we will have to see. It's likely that we will end up with about 400 students who will eventually be allowed to participate. So we don't have a specific number in mind. Everybody who deserves to be in the program will be in the program. So, but yes, I don't think we will want to have more than 500 just because it's too hard to manage. So we probably will eliminate about 2/3 of those who applied just because it's too hard to manage a larger group. But will it be exactly 500? Will it be a little bit less? We'll have to see. So, but probably my forecast is again, I want to see the results of the 4th test. But my forecast is that it will be probably somewhere around 400 students who will be allowed to advance to the practical training phase.
So on the weekly 3rd review, I was ranked 21. Is it a good thing or not?
You had 21.
I was ranked 21.
Oh, you were, no, yeah, that's a very good thing. Yeah. So in fact, I can show you that. So that's a very good thing. So I think, I kind of show that only to the best students, so others don't probably even know what I'm talking about here. But let me show everybody what we have here. So you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
So one thing that we do is we, just one second, let me open that file. One of the columns that we use for our own kind of internal records is the rank of the student in the program. So as I showed you, as I told you, we have at this time 1,365 students still in the program, still in the game, and technically all of them can still be able to advance to the next level. And so when you look at the students here, let me just hide the email addresses. We don't want that to to be in the public domain. So we have some students, like now they are sorted by the results, and so we have a bunch of students here that got 100, 100, 100.
I found my name.
Yeah, so your name is there. So
I'm 16. Yeah.
Where are you? So yeah, that's you, right?
Yeah.
So you are technically now and we have this formula that calculates the rank. So we have 14 people, I believe, here or 12 people who have perfect, like 100 on everything. And so the rank is calculated as the average of those people. So technically all of them are number 1, but since we don't know which one is number 1, 2, 3, or 4, so they kind of get an average rank of 7. And then you got 100, 100, but one of the tests you were a little bit below 100.
Yes.
So you're among the 21 people who got, so basically, so you can think that you're on average, like if I had to rank all 1,400, you would be in that, area. So you are definitely in, unless you didn't do the 4th test.
No, I already did it.
Okay, yeah, so I'm comfortable and I'm ready to basically invite you right now. So students in this first 100 or so, like when you go to the first 100 or so, as you can see, all of them did very, very well, all good results, like we are ready to invite them right away. But as we move a little bit further down, so that's where, some things started happening. Like these are still all good, but let's look at, for example,
75.
Yeah, let's look at this student from Jamaica, for example, right? So he got 67 on the first test. He improved and got 79 on the second test.
Yeah, and he improved a lot.
He improved even more. He got 100 on the 3rd test. What if he gets 100 on the 4th test? Should we accept him or not? Because, he seems to be trying hard and he seems to be improving.
Because he improved a lot.
Right, and so that's where I kind of become like, yeah, do we accept him or not? I mean, it's still all in green. It still all looks good. But, you know, that's where we become a little bit like, yeah, what do we do with him? And so what I think we did with him, we told him that we need him to retake test number 1. So we want to see a better result. And if he retakes it and passes, we will allow him to participate on the team. If not, we may have to reject his application. So basically, as I said, it's not very simple decision here. It's not a, you know, simple science. Not to mention, again, looking at this student, for example, you know, he's only 16, so pretty young. He's from Jamaica, which, you know, English is kind of widely spoken there, so it should be fine. But, you know, what do you know? Or, for example, this student here, you know, Joyce from the United States, only 12 years old, got a very good score on the first test, but got 72 and 71 on the second and the third, which is a little too low. So English for Joyce is the native language, I assume. So she's from the United States, but she's only 12. So is 72 good enough for someone who's only 12 or not? And so that's where it becomes a little bit more problematic, you know, those decisions. So we will have a meeting on Monday. So there will be several professors who will get together, and we will try to decide together what we're going to do about each of those cases. So just kind of in full disclosure. And then if I scroll all the way down, like we have a bunch of students here who didn't do a single test. I mean, these already put them in gray, already don't want, like we don't want them, like I'm not even going to invite them.
Yeah, because they didn't even take the test, so
Yeah,
they're not interested.
and there are some people here, like for example, Arianda from Venezuela, who did the first test, you know, did very well, got 100, but then, you know,
Maybe because the first test was quick and it was easy to make
well, but then again,
do all
maybe
the
it was
things that
also,
the other ones.
yeah, but maybe it was also because she's from Venezuela, and I'm not sure if you're following the international news, but Venezuela now is going through some really, really bad times. I mean,
Yes.
literally even food is in short supply. I mean, let alone, you know, internet. And so there is a very good chance that maybe Ariadna, you know, is a great student and is trying hard, but because it's Venezuela, they literally have like essentially a, you know, humanitarian crisis going on there. Like sometimes even getting water is a problem. You know, people are escaping in large numbers. So I can well imagine that maybe Ariadna is a very good student. She did very well in the beginning, but then at some point, you know, literally lost access to the electricity or the internet. I've seen reports that even hospitals do not have the electricity, you know, to operate on the, you know, sick people. So here, you know, so what do you do? I don't know. But then at the same time, if she did not find an opportunity to do the remaining tests, maybe she will not find an opportunity to talk to the team. Should we make an exception there or not? And so that's a very difficult issue here. Anyway, so I'm going to stop here because we have another webinar in 4 minutes and we need to prepare for that. I'll read the questions, but it seems like we answered most of the questions anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So all of you guys then, yes, this is it. So within the next 2 days, we will know if you're in or out. You will hear from us very shortly, and hopefully you all are in. And yeah, in a couple of weeks, you will be placed on teams, and then the real fun begins. So the real fun begins. So yeah.
Thank
All right.
you.
Nice to meet you all. Good to talk to those that I talked, Dana, Nada, everybody else here. So, and yeah, hopefully see you soon in the next webinar and then at one of the symposia, maybe in Singapore, guys. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.